Hi everyone, this is Crystal and I'm super excited today to be participating in the Scraptember YouTube Hop. I have my little box, not so little maybe, box of scraps in front of me. This is a drawer. It's part of a drawer system, just a plastic drawer system that holds 12 by 12 papers. I keep all of my pattern paper scraps in one drawer and all of my solid cardstock scraps in another drawer. And you can see it's very full. In fact, it has overflown into another container. So I actually have a second one of these, not the same container, it's just like a 12 by 12 iris container that also is full of pattern paper scraps. But today I'm going to focus on just this one. I thought it would be easier just to deal with one at a time. So originally my plan was to go through and purge, and much like my Organize With Me series, I was going to deal with all of the scraps and get it down to a much more reasonable amount, but time did not allow for that. And unfortunately, I just need to see what's here and create a layout. So that's my plan. My plan is to go through what's here, pull out some things that are really just kind of speaking to me, things that draw my attention, and find some things that will work together and then create a layout. Meanwhile, I want to talk to you about what I do with my scraps, why I keep them, how much I keep, and what I tend to actually do with them. So I am going to put you on fast forward, just start kind of rifling through this and see what's here, and then we'll create something together. As I start going through this bin and looking for things that I want to use for today's layout, I just wanted to talk to you about what's actually in here. So I'm pretty sure I've never thrown away a piece of paper in the well, definitely 10 years that I've been scrapbooking in earnest, and some of the things that are in these bins are even older than that. I use them, I go through them periodically, but I don't ever get rid of any of the scraps that I have. So that's actually a problem. That's not a good thing. That means that I have two of these bins absolutely overflowing with scraps instead of just some small reasonable amount that I can actually deal with. So that's something I need to change. I need to start getting rid of any of the small pieces of paper that are, not big enough to really even use behind a photo or anything like that, and start getting used to the idea of letting go of those. I think that for so long, I just felt that all of my supplies were so precious and that I didn't want to waste them. I didn't want to use them, and I don't want to waste them, but I can't hold on to every little piece like I have been either. So I think I need to change my habits when it comes to dealing with these pieces of paper, and kind of reform the way that I look at scraps. So what's in here is pretty much every little piece of paper that I've cut from a bigger piece, or even large pieces if I've just cut a small piece out of it and it no longer is in with the collection that it came from, then it goes into this bin. Even some printable things, even some Project Life cards that I cut into, all of those things are in these bins. There's an envelope right there of things that I had used for a particular set of projects and ended up with a bunch of scraps and decided to keep them all together, to use them together. And here it is many, many months, if not years later, and they're still in this bin. Yeah, it's not a good system. I need to rethink this. I need to work out a new way of dealing with it. But for today, I'm just looking for things that really call out to me. I don't have a plan. I don't have a photo picked out. I don't have any idea really what's in here. So I'm just going through and picking things that I like, things that I want to use today. And it doesn't go any deeper than that, really. Just trying to figure out what's in here that I actually want to use. After this video is over, after I go back to my Organize With Me plans, I am going to go through both of these bins and get rid of anything I just don't think I'll use anymore. I know that there are things in these bins that I definitely won't use. I'm also going to get rid of all those tiny little pieces. At one point I did go through and pull out all the small pieces and I put them in a separate container, and some nights while I was watching TV I would just sit and die cut from them. So I have a little divided plastic container full of different shapes of die cuts, like leaves and hearts and stars and things that I have, small die cut shapes. actual metal dies, like, old school die cuts that I have. And I do use those, but I don't use them very often. So I don't think it's something I need to continue to do because I think it'll just take up space. It'll be the same as them sitting in these scrap bins. And those, I actually have two small divided containers. They're like the kind that you store thread in, like embroidery thread or little beads or something for jewelry making. I have two of those, and they're both full of small bits that I've die cut. So I don't think I need to do that anymore. I think I can just let those small pieces go and say goodbye to them. Anything that's big enough, I will cut down to use in other projects, cut down to reasonable sizes and use them in other projects. So what I'm doing right now is just going through that pile of things that I had pulled aside to see what actually goes together, what I can use together for a layout. I'm just making piles of this might go with this might work with that, and just kind of thinking through how much I might need to actually create a project today, and which one of these is the one I want to work with. So I'm going to make some piles, and then I'm going to narrow it down, and then I will come back and talk to you for just a second about what my plans are. Okay, so I've ended up with three options really that I think would work well together, that I could create a layout from. What I'm going to do next is go through my photos and see if I can find any that will work with any of these color schemes. Okay, so I went through my photos and found a couple that I think would work. I found this one of my niece sleeping in the car. She's adorable, and I thought it would look pretty with all of these pinks and teals. Then I also found one of my sister and my niece at a corn maze, so I thought it would work well with kind of this fall color scheme over here. I think I'm going to do this one today, and I will save this one for another time, but I think this is the one that's kind of speaking to me, probably because it's more seasonal, more seasonally appropriate than this one. I'm feeling all the fall vibes right now, so I think this is what I'm going to go with. I am going to, again, put you on fast forward and get this layout created. So what I've ended up with is really just a bunch of small pieces, and then one piece that's fairly large, that's at least in one direction is still 12 by 12. So it will stretch across the entire page, which is something that I tried to make sure when I was going through the piles that I had one piece that was at least 12 inches long in one direction, so that if I wanted to create a border or something down the middle of the page, I could do that. I'm looking for a piece of cardstock to use as my background, and I thought about using this off-white piece that I have had for forever, but I don't really like using off-white as a background. I love it when I see other people do it, but it's something that when I see it myself, it just looks wrong. It just looks, I don't know, it just doesn't look right to me. So I am going to stick with white and try to build some layers up behind my photo. And I am thinking of doing just a strip of paper down the middle of my page with that one longer piece, and then just adding the rest really kind of behind my photo as layers. And probably I'm thinking at this point that I don't want them to be perfectly straight. I will make this first one pretty straight behind the photo, but then beyond that, I'm thinking I don't want it to look too perfect. I am dealing with scraps, so I'm thinking that it should look just a little bit haphazard, maybe a little bit scrappy, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. I am going to pop up my photo on some foam. This is just craft foam, and I'm going to add it to the back of my photo before I add it to this kind of mustardy yellow paper to use as my first mat. Because it's on foam, I had to trim it before I adhered it together. So I was just trying to kind of eyeball how big it needed to be. I used my photo to line it up a little bit, and then I just kind of went for it. So that's going to give me the first layer behind my photo. That's the one that's going to be kind of even on all sides. And then I'm going to trim this down. It was cut. I probably cut it by hand at some point. It wasn't even, so I just needed to trim off a little bit to make it straight. And then I cut it to 5 inches. So I'm going to have a 5-inch strip down the center of my page, and then I'm going to just start layering up all these other pieces on top of it behind my photo to give me a bit of a focal point, a bit of interest and color behind my photo. So that is the plan. You aren't going to see the patterns on these papers super well, which kind of bums me out a little bit because I really like some of these papers, but you're going to get the feel of them, and it's definitely going to feel like a fall page, which is what the photo is. It's a photo of my sister and my niece at the corn maze. I think I already said that, but now you know it twice. So it's definitely a fall photo. I actually wasn't at the corn maze with them. This is a photo that they sent me just so that I could scrapbook it. So you'll see later, I was thinking of adding journaling, and I realized I don't really have any journaling to add because I wasn't even there. But I had planned. For some reason, I thought I would add journaling to this, but I don't. You'll see in the end that I end up just kind of adding a large title and the date. Okay, so to adhere this in the center of my page, I am going to grab my T-square ruler just to make sure that I get it right in the center and that I get it straight. So I'm using the ruler to get it at the 6-inch mark in the center of the page, and then I'm going to use it this way to just make sure that it's straight on the page horizontally. And once I get that in place and I'm happy with it, I can start gluing the photo cluster down on top of that. And I do make it so that it overhangs the top a little bit. I didn't want it to sit completely within that paper strip. I wanted it to kind of stand out above it. And you may have noticed as well that at first I had that dark brown paper at the top of my photo and the kind of tree paper at the bottom, but I switched those because generally I like my pages to have more visual weight at the bottom. It just feels more natural. Otherwise they feel top heavy. Like if they were actually standing up, they would topple over if the weight was at the top. So by adding the visual weight to the bottom of the page, it just makes it feel more natural. I'm looking through my newly organized alpha stickers to find some alphas that will work for this page. I end up going with these super old ones from Amy Tangerine. These are kind of a bamboo looking thicker, but I really liked the light brown with this page. I thought it worked really well. It didn't compete with anything else on the page. You can read it well on this background without having to struggle too much. And they're small enough that I can fit my large title on this small center strip of the page. So my title is just going to be simple, Corn Maze Fun. Like I said, I wasn't actually there, so I don't know any more of a story to it than that they were just having fun at the corn maze last year. So keeping it simple and just to get this really cute photo documented. So Corn Maze Fun, and then I will add a little bit to the title with some embellishments as we move forward. So once I get that on, and of course I will have to go back and glue these down. These are thickers. They're chipboard thickers, not foam thickers, and they are quite old, so they're not going to stick to this page unless I add some additional glue. So now I'm ready to start embellishing the page, and to do that I grabbed my bin of fall goodies. This is where I keep all of my fall themed papers and embellishments and all the little pieces that I want to use for fall pages. It makes it super easy to just grab embellishments for a fall page when I'm not working from a kit. So I'm just going through and pulling out things that I like, things that I think I might want to use. I'm not really thinking about how they might work or where they might go on the page. I'm just kind of grabbing random things and I'll play around with it as I go. I grabbed this strip of kind of washi stickers. They're more like vellum really, because they have some plaid strips, and my sister is wearing a plaid shirt in the photo, so I thought it would work really well. I will come back to that. It didn't work where I had it at first, but I will come back to it and find a place for it in the end. I also have these wood veneer pieces. These are actually from the Dollar Tree. I think I got them there last year, and I'm going to use one pumpkin and one leaf from that. And then I have these super old freckled fawn cork pumpkins as well, and I'm going to use one of those on top of that wood veneer pumpkin. And this is a sheet of clear stickers from HipKit from, gosh, it might be November of 2018. I think it might be November of 2018's kit. But they're super cute, and I thought it would be cute to have family fun at the top, and then I wanted another one. I was looking for one in the same font because I wanted them to kind of match, and I found one that said family and friends, so I'm going to add that to the bottom of my title, and that's going to kind of be a subtitle, I guess. I had actually, these were stuck to the back of that other sheet, but they are acetate leaves. They're also from HipKit. I think they're from that same kit, and I had already added them to some adhesive with my Xyron. I don't know when. Last time I used them, I guess I had done that, and they were just kind of stuck to the back of one of these other sheets. I didn't even intentionally pull them out, but same with that acorn that's also acetate. It was just inside the package of wood veneer. It must have just gotten stuck in there. So I'm going to use all three of them. Right now I'm going through this is a little baggie of random things that I had fussy cut and die cut back in 2018 for my Thankful 30 of that year. So I'm really digging back into my fall stash here. But this is one of those baggies of things that I had done with scraps. So I had sat down probably one night watching TV, and I have a little diamond press die cutter that works perfectly with these small dies, and I just cut a ton of leaves from the scraps from my Thankful 30 that year, and kept them all together thinking I would use them with some fall layouts, and clearly that's working out for me. So that's what I'm using. There are hearts and there are leaves, and I think there are some coffee cups. I don't end up using those on this page, but basically any small die I had at the time I used to just cut up some scraps to use with future pages. So there are some circles and some hexagons as well. I think those are actually punches, not dies, but you get the idea. So that's something you can do with your scraps if it's something that you will use. Like I said, I have a lot of them already, so I don't need to do that anymore. I don't think. I think I can let my tiny scraps go, but that's one way to use up your little scraps if you want to hold on to them. Okay, so I'm just going through this and pulling out anything that works with my color scheme. You can see I'm pulling out quite a bit. I won't end up using all of those, obviously, but I wanted to have options to create some clusters at the corners of my photo. This is kind of my go-to way of creating pages, to create clusters at the top left and bottom right of my photo, and then have the title off to the right. I think a lot of my layouts tend to have that basic shape, which is fine with me because they all use different products and they all are slightly different, and it doesn't bother me to have them look similar at all. And I think it's okay to have a go-to, because sometimes you just need to get it down on the page and not have to think about it and not have to be super innovative. Just create a page to get it documented and get it in your album. And that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm working through the little things that I had picked out there, trying to get a balance of color. I want all of the colors represented in all of the clusters. I have a third cluster there on the other side of my title, just to kind of extend the page a little bit to the right. It was looking a little bit left heavy, so this will help kind of even it out. And yeah, just trying to get a good representation of all the colors in all the places. So once I have it the way that I want it, I'm going to start gluing things down. I did go back to that washi tape or vellum tape strip, and I'm going to add a little piece of it here at the top. I chose the red one because My sister is wearing a red plaid shirt, so that seemed to make the most sense to me. And I did try and get the other piece here at the bottom. I don't believe I end up keeping that. It just looked a little awkward. I think the one at the top looked fine, but for some reason when I added the second one, it just didn't quite look right. So I think I take that back up and just put it back on the sheet. Yeah, I don't think I get it to work. But once I have that in place where I want it, then I can start gluing things down. So the wood veneer pieces that came from the Dollar Tree actually had a foam dot on the back of them, but it was not very sticky. So I ended up taking that off and adding my own foam adhesive behind them. They do need to be lifted up because there are lots of different layers behind the photo and all those little leaves and the clusters. So I do have to lift them up. I did not add any adhesive to that acetate acorn I just glued down. I added it to the other things it was clustered with, and that's going to be enough to hold it in place. I'm not worried about it going anywhere. And then I just use tape runner to glue the rest of these clusters down. I'm just going to take them kind of one at a time, add a little bit of tape runner to the back of them, and then add them to the cluster. So I'm trying to fill in some of these gaps. You can see there's a little bit of a gap between my photo mat and the F in fun, and I want this cluster to kind of extend out past my photo and kind of fill in some of that space. I did the same thing with a cluster with the acetate acorn on the other side of my title, kind of filling in that little dip in the title between the E of maze and the N of fun, just kind of tucking it in there to make it all feel connected and feel like it flows together. I added a wood veneer tab to the top of my photo, which was easy to do since it was up on foam. And then I also added a little phrase die cut that says traditions. That's actually from Feedurcraft. I had used the Feedurcraft digital kit to do my Thankful 30 for 2018, and that was in that bag with all the other things I had used for that album. So that was just an extra little phrase sticker that I had, or phrase die cut, that worked really well at the top of my photo with that tab. And then at the top cluster, I have those acetate leaves, which are really hard to see on screen, but much easier to see in person. And then the die cut leaves and the wood veneer leaf, and then the other wood veneer leaf that was actually from that set of wood veneers from Hip Kit Club that was also from that same kit. I believe it was November of 2018. And I had another one of those in the cluster with the acetate acorn on the other side of my title. So I'm thinking I need something at the edges of my page. It's looking a little bit too blank, so I just went for it, grabbed my scissors, cut into it. I'm going to distress it, and then I'm going to add some paper behind it. I'm looking at my scraps, trying to think of which one I want to use. I'm going to try out a couple different ones. I thought that this orange one would give it some visual weight at the bottom, but I end up going with this mustard yellow polka dot paper just because I felt like the orange was a little bit too stark. I didn't want to use the same teal paper I had used down the center of my page, and I didn't like the idea of using that tree paper because you wouldn't see enough of it to actually see the pattern, so that didn't make much sense to me. But this yellow paper, which is right behind my photo, helps draw your attention to the photo as well. So because your eye will kind of look for things that match on the page. So by having this yellow paper at the top and bottom, it kind of makes that yellow paper in the center stand out a bit more. Okay, so here's where I was thinking, oh, I need to add my journaling. And then I thought, wait, what journaling? I don't really have a story to tell here. I went and grabbed a pen and everything, and then I thought, I don't have anything to say about this. It's just a cute photo of my family. So instead, I grabbed my date stamp and some Distress Oxide ink in ground espresso. And I'm just going to stamp the date right below my title and call it good. And then that is going to be it for this page. So there are close-up photos coming up. I hope that you enjoyed watching this process. I hope I gave you some inspiration for using up your scraps. And I hope that you go and create something with your scraps. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. And be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to check out the other videos in this hop. I have everyone linked down below in the description box. You don't want to miss the other videos. They are going to be fantastic. I can guarantee that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you back here soon.